Welcome to this YouTube video where we're going to talk about the biggest challenges when selling solar over the phone. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you have seen any of my previous uploads, any of my previous videos, you probably have seen that this is a very different style video. I usually like to go a little bit more fancy, but honestly it takes a lot of it takes a lot for me to put out a video, and as opposed to spacing those videos out and waiting for my editing team to get back to me, and then I have to send them a few revisions and here and this and that, and to really put out the same level of information, maybe even less than what I would like to. This would make my life so much easier if you guys obviously like it. If you don't like it, then I'm going to stop making these videos. But usually, when you buy a big, fancy, expensive course, this is the kind of videos that you get. These are the kind of videos that are going to make you so much better. Now, you can run this in the background while you're running some errands or while you're working out or you're on the treadmill or you're doing something else. You can just play this in the background and download knowledge into your brain. But the whole point of this is to make you better than you were. So let's get right into it. By the way, if you like it, honestly, please, please, please let me know down in the comments if you prefer this style of videos. I can make a lot more of these because it doesn't take really anything out of me. Just I can, put together this thing very, very quickly, and I can just shoot them out, a few a week, and it's going to be so much better. But obviously, if you don't like them, then I'm going to stop making them. It's as simple as that. So the biggest challenges when selling solar over the phone. Um, I get the question a lot. What is the most difficult thing when it comes to selling solar over the phone? Now, I think there's people out there still that they don't even believe that this is actually a viable method. Like you can actually do this at scale. They think it's overrated, especially for people that have already been in the industry, but they've started the traditional door knocking route or selling in person, and they think, oh my god, like it's already hard enough when I'm in the home, like let alone not seeing the customer. How hard does that must be? So I'm here to tell you that it's not hard. And that's what I usually tell people, that it's not hard, it's just different. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of these things. So the first thing that's a challenge when doing it over the phone is show up rates. So you might have, if you have a setter closer model, you have somebody schedule the appointment for you, or maybe you're the one scheduling the appointment for yourself, and then you're like, oh my god, like, that's a great deal, it's a great lead, and then you're just impatiently waiting for the time when you're actually going to speak to the customer again so you can present to them the numbers, and then you could shut it down, right? Have them sign docs, and really get that deal in the bag, secure it. Well, the thing is that you're going to have, most often than not, people not show up. And when I tell people what the no show rate for doing this remotely, they get really scared. They're like, oh my god, 50%? Because that's what it actually is for me. If it's a 50%, that's not a bad number. Actually, anything above 50% is really good. Is what I would consider it really good. Now, why does that really happen? Because people are flaky by nature. I mean, you can't make somebody, there's a lot of reasons, but one is being flaky. Another one is you just haven't created enough interest for them to, you know, even feel remotely interested in showing up for the next call. So again, you have to blame it on yourself a little bit, or always ask yourself, hey, what could I have done better to have the customer show up for the call? But it's always going to be a challenge. And so I think just knowing this right before you go to battle, you're going to be in a lot better mindset, just knowing what to expect, because a lot of people don't know that this is normal. And so when they start doing it, they're like, oh my God, the show up rates are terrible. I'm like, they're not terrible. You're just not used to them. And so I can tackle a lot more appointments over the phone than somebody driving around and having to do in person appointments all day long. I can do that. for sure. Now, what's really the solution for doing that? Well, you have to implement multiple confirmation touch points. You got to use all means necessary: text, email, even automated calls. You could do that. If you have a CRM like Go High Level, or close.com, or any CRM for that matter, you can integrate this and use automated reminders. Like, this is super key. 6 to 8 automated reminders plus personalized confirmations. Yes, actually text the people, right? Let them know, hey, I'm going to be calling you from a 305 phone number, so people know that this is you. Okay. That's another thing. If you're doing a setter closer model and it's not you, the person that actually schedules the appointment, have the appointment setter tell them, hey, my solar expert is going to call you from a 305 area code. This is going to be him. He's going to call you on, at 6 p.m. dead. Please make sure you answer the call. And it changes things a lot, because even if it increases the likelihood of that person showing up by 3 to 5%, that's big. That is super big. Okay. Because you're going to have less no shows, which is crucial. You're going to end up with more realized appointments that you've actually pitched, right? But this is super, super important. Number two is trust and rapport building. So it's not a face to face interaction. So, of course, it's going to be harder to establish trust. How you tackle that is you have to spend more time actually building rapport with the customer. Don't rush into the pitch, right? Of course, you're not gonna, if you realize that, hey, that's not somebody that can actually want to even talk to me for that long, fine, you can cut to the chase and really get to it. But if you notice that they like to talk a little bit, like, let them talk, and you can talk back to them. Like, try to befriend the potential customer. Don't try to, get them off the phone as quick as possible, because you have to realize that selling solar really is a process. Like, it's not about just, having them confirm or say yes on the phone and then maybe sign docs. You have to basically take them through the entire process and make sure that the deal sticks and they don't cancel because of the lack of rapport building that you haven't done. So you want to spend a little bit more time with them, right? Chit chat, whatever you want to call it. You don't want to spend a lot. 3 to 5 minutes is okay. It's that would change things a lot, for you, without that would change actually a lot. That would change things a lot more than if you were to rush it into the pitch. So I would highly advise against that. Do not rush into the pitch. Take your time. Another thing is you have to realize that it's multiple touch points. This 1-2 cold close thing that you've heard other people talk about, maybe in other industries, it works. But if we're talking at scale, I'm here to tell you that for the most part, it takes between 5 and 7 phone calls to really get it shut down, right? It's not just because they don't trust you. It could be because, hey, I have to have the wife or the husband now into the conversation. Well, that's fine, John. Let's have Nancy join the call tomorrow, for example, or on Thursday. Or it might be because, hey, now you've sent them the agreement. They want to read it. Okay. There's those type of customers. They want to read it. And you have to give them a little bit of time to do that before your next touch point. So there's a lot of different reasons, but all I'm trying to tell you is that this 1 or 2 cold close bullshit that you keep hearing, it's possible, but not on every single call. It's going to be a very small number of people that you're going to be able to shut down on the very first call or even the second call. Like, don't get scared when you hear the number 5 to 7 calls. It's not actually that much if you really think about it. And you can make a lot of money. You can make, five, six, seven, $10,000, $15,000, depending on the deal, if you do this the right way. So do not get scared that you're going to spend, these are not going to be very long conversations. All in all, you're going to spend an extra, let's say, 30 minutes with them. And then you're going to make that money. So to me, it's worth it all day long. So again, number three, local knowledge and expertise. So why is that a challenge? Because yes, you have the freedom to sell in any state that you want, or any state that you deem, uh, for example, it's going to be a good, profitable state. Not every state is created equal. Some states are terrible to sell in, and I would highly advise against selling in those states. But if you know where to sell, you have to know the local, state, and utility incentives for going solar, just so that you're prepared. That is that you basically you bundle that up with your product knowledge, right? Everything is essentially, this is your value. You offer you're selling information. That's what you're doing on the call, because if they don't have the information, they're not going to buy. And so you're going to have to use everything to your advantage. If you don't know these local, state, and utility incentives, your offer is going to be very, very weak compared to someone who does. Okay. So you have to be prepared to answer questions on net metering, rebates, and of course, the financing options in the state or with the particular EPC that you're working with. So make sure you do that. Okay. Now, site survey and visual assurance. So what that is actually, I don't know what I wrote. Visual assurance, site survey. So when you're selling over the phone, you want to make sure that you can get they call it a the perfect pack or the perfect packet or whatever. So where you actually get your M1s. Some installers like to do still M1s, which is a milestone one payment. And they're going to release some of the money from your overall commission. But in order to do that, they need a few things. Every installer, I'm not going to name, any names or anything, but every installer has different criteria in order to release or approve the M1 to be sent out to you. Okay. So uh, for almost all of them, the site survey pictures apply. Now, a lot of installers, they of course they have their own site survey teams that they can send out, but a lot of times from my experience it's a lot slower. Like if you have, for example, to my clients and what we use, we have a photo op team that runs in all 50 states, and I could literally text them, hey, I want somebody in Maine to go and take some pictures for us. They could literally get it done within a day, maximum 2 days. And we already have the pictures that we need. And it looks super professional, and we can move on with the deal. As opposed to if I'm waiting on the installer to do that, it might take a week, sometimes, a little bit longer, depending on like their backlog. Um, Depending on how backed up they are with other site surveys and so on and so forth. And depending on how strong that state is really for them, because sometimes they only have like one team that can do this. And it's very, it's rather, it will be the more considerate option to look for somebody else to take care of that for you, as opposed to just relying on the installer. Okay. Now, another thing is, which is the last thing, is the overall volume. I know I really touched on this at the very beginning of this video, but you just have to realize that because you're doing this over the phone, there's a lot more of a, trust building going on. Also, when you're actually signing docs, outside of building trust, the next thing is signing docs, which is another thing in and of itself. You just have to become very efficient with how you help people sign docs or take them through the process of signing docs. So a lot of times that can kill a deal if you're not efficient enough. Like you can literally have someone say yes to you. What's the next step? They want to move forward, but because you're not ready, then you lose the sale, and they get frustrated at the end of the process because they feel stupid. They can't take care of something. For example, their phone. They're only doing this on their phone. They're not getting the docs. They're not receiving the email. They receive the email, but when they click on it, it doesn't work, doesn't load. Like there's so many things that can go wrong. So you have to be very efficient. Usually, how we do this is I always create. I don't do this anymore, but I used to create a dummy deal, right? And I try to send docs to myself if it's a financier that I haven't worked with, and I want to see what type of emails that specific financing company sends out to homeowners, just so that I know, okay, this is this is what the process entails. You're gonna get this email, and then in this email, it should say this in the subject, and then when you open it, you should see a button right at the bottom. It should say this. You should click it, and then you open. Like basically, you're doing this over the phone, but then you can also walk them through it because you have been through it. If you never been on the side of the customer, you don't know what the customer is actually experiencing at that point. You're going to be it's going to be very difficult for you to be helpful in that situation. And I'm telling you, it's terrible to lose a deal over a technical difficulty and a homeowner not being capable of basically signing docs by them on their own. It's very stupid to do that. Okay, but anyway, what I was saying is the overall volume. Like you just have to come to terms with the fact that you just have to touch base with these people a little bit more than if you're doing this, in person. But it's a lot better because it allows you to sell in multiple states. It allows you to sell in the most lucrative states. It doesn't matter where you're located. And that's the whole point. Okay. Now, some people say, I know I touched based on, I think, the trust factor and rapport building. Why not do this on a Zoom call? I have probably, at least 4 to 5 videos really talking about this, maybe even more, maybe even close to 10 videos where I talk about why we don't do Zoom calls and why we prefer selling over the phone. Really, I'm going to cut right to the chase and tell you the biggest reason. People are very illiterate with technology, especially the ideal audience and the homeowners that who are interested in actually going solar, which for the most part are people above, I would say, 45 to about 65, 70 years old and so on. A lot of these people, believe it or not, they are not capable of joining a Zoom call, and you're going to leave a lot of money on the table if you basically, you know you're so adamant on having this entire presentation or whatever you have, your pitch, doing on a Zoom call. Yes, it would be much better because they could see your face. You could see their face. There's a lot of rapport building because they could see your facial expressions and vice versa. But there's also, you know, the cost of the opportunity cost by not getting on a lot of these calls simply because people are not able to actually join the Zoom call. So that's why we don't do them. And if someone asks, of course you can do it, but I prefer to do everything over the phone. We make it extremely easy. We make it extremely accessible for people to be able to do this. There's a lot of other industries have been doing this for decades, and they're doing this successfully. Solar happens to be a no-brainer, no-brainer type of deal, and I just don't understand why a lot more people don't do it in, let's say, 2025, right? So I hope this was of value to you, and maybe I was able to bust some of those, limiting beliefs that you might have had on, hey, what's what's really so hard, or what, like, is that even possible? This is why I'm making these videos. I want to see more people try to do the remote thing because I think I can add a lot of value to that. If you have basically, you're wanting to do this, but you've always, procrastinated because somebody told you that it's not possible, I'm here to tell you that it is. Anyway, I don't want to drag this video and make it longer than it should be. Hope it was of value. If you like this style of videos, I'm gonna keep making them, but please leave a comment down below. Let me know if you actually like it or not. And based on, you know, based on the feedback, I'm either going to stop making them or I'm going to make more of them. I appreciate you for watching it all the way through. See you in the next video.